You know, Ryan Reynolds is typically very funny, and his movies usually are wonderful, but his last two outings from Netflix haven't been as stellar as they really could have been. But he's back again with his Free Guy director in the new Netflix sci-fi action movie, The Atom Project. So should this one be the one that you add to your watch list? A time-traveling pilot teams up with his younger self and his late father to come to terms with his past while saving the future. Now, the cast in this is pretty stacked. I mean, not only do we have Ryan Reynolds, but there's also Zoe Saldana, Mark Ruffalo, Catherine Keener, and Jennifer Garner. And we also get to see the young actor Walker Scobell in his first feature. So first off, the premise is that Ryan Reynolds plays Adam, a pilot from 2050 who goes back in time and lands in 2022, where his 12-year-old self is. Now, future Adam is trying to solve a problem, but he's also in danger from someone in his own time. And we learn all of this within like the first couple minutes of the movie. Both future and present Adam come into contact, and then I was blown away by Walker Scobell's performance. I mean, his acting was very natural, but what stood out to me was how closely he mimics Ryan Reynolds. The timing, tone of voice, sarcastic delivery, I mean, even along with the facial expressions and body language, really do make it feel like we're watching the younger version of this future Adam. Now, because this is a sci-fi action movie and portions have to do with the future, we get to see some future technology, and the special effects, I think, look pretty cool. Now, because Reynolds recently teamed up with Shawn Levy on Free Guy, we know that he can handle a lightsaber because we saw that epic in this. That skill comes in handy with this really cool staff that future Adam has. Now, chasing Adam are some soldiers that come from the future, and they look like they're wearing shiny hockey pads over their tights, but when they die, that's when the effect is pretty cool. There are also some great chase sequences within this where the excitement is tense and it's urgent. And I love how the camera chases along with the characters, but then puts us right into the vehicle as all of it's happening around us. Now, the action, I mean, is so much fun when it's there. But this isn't non-stop action. But when it is present, it is engaging. Now, because this had to do with time travel, there are some complex ideas that are discussed, and they're broken down to an understandable level that doesn't tack down to the audience, but also just isn't going to confuse us. Also, some of the time travel problems that are always raised in movies are addressed here, and this one makes even more sense than some of the more recent dealings with that same subject. Now, the movie's an hour and 46 minutes, but some of the story feels surprisingly thin. The concept of the plot is simple, which I think is fine, but most of the characters outside of future and present Adam don't have a lot of development to them. Zoe Saldana is a driving force in future Adam's life, but she comes on screen quickly, and then she has a really fun action sequence, and then disappears from the story for quite a while. Jennifer Garner is sweet for what her role is, but there's not much here for her actually to do. Now, I like Catherine Keener, and her role can be fun, but there's just something missing from the equation. Her motivations seem weak once they're fully explored. Now, she gets to play the antagonist, and she can be menacing and ruthless, but there are moments where she just comes across as stiff. Plus, there's a de-aging technique used with some wonky CGI that looks close to being believable, but it's also so unsettling that it was hard to buy it. And that's not the fault of Keener. I mean, it just happens to be her face that we see that just doesn't look quite right. And what we get is closer to Chelsea Peretti than Catherine Keener. I also wanted her motivations to be loftier, to have more weight to why she was doing what she was. I mean, it's not like we can't understand what she's doing. The motives are easy to understand, and they're not shrouded at all, but they just don't feel original or even something that we should really care about. Mark Ruffalo has a big impact on the story, even though his screen time is fairly minimal. Now, he's got good comedic timing that works really well off of Reynolds, and he can be very, very funny. And he comes across as naturally charming and charismatic, but what I appreciated most of his performance is the heart of his character. There's a moment where he's talking to future Adam, and he just keeps repeating phrases. And from a parent-child standpoint, it is incredibly moving, and it's filled with so much emotion that I found it hard not to get choked up while watching. And that's where this movie really succeeds. The emotional journey is very touching and effective in building out a story that more than makes up for any of those other story deficiencies. Not only do we watch future Adam come to terms with a ton of his issues, but he also has some really moving conversations with his younger self as well as with his dad. And even when there is the sarcastic comedy in the middle, there's still a sweetness that comes through and maintains that emotional pull. I love the relationships that are showcased during the story. While sometimes they're biting, they also feel very true with the massive amount of concern that's shared between our characters. I was really enjoying a lot of the cinematography in this. Scenes are shot to give us good sense of intimacy, which then help to highlight the growing relationships and the wisdom that's being shared between the characters. The score and soundtrack are also really enjoyable. I mean, the music is a bunch of throwbacks that create a great atmosphere, and then the score has this repeating theme. It's soft and orchestral, and while it is kind of a dramatic sound, it also has this hopefulness to it. There are a couple of nods in this to other Ryan Reynolds films. Now, some are in the way that scenes are carried out, and others are shown through character actions, and one in particular made me just totally laugh. So overall, The Adam Project is a fun action sci-fi with a simple story that is made tremendously better by the sweetness of the message. Not all of the characters have the deepest storylines or are fleshed out totally well, but the comedy works. And the banter between Ryan Reynolds, Walker Scobell, and Mark Ruffalo is funny with great timing. And the scene stealer in the movie is the newcomer Walker Scobell. He captures the mannerisms, cadence, and affectations of Ryan Reynolds very convincingly, and it's going to be great to see what else he does. The special effects are also impressive, as are the score and the cinematography. And what saves this from being a rote and forgettable film is the satisfyingly emotional storyline that's filled with love and hope. There's no sex or nudity, but there is some profanity and a bunch of violence. I give The Adam Project 4 out of 5 couches. What's your favorite movie or show about time travel? Now, Dark, absolutely the number one. But I also love how Primer melts my mind every time I watch it. But let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.